morning from Helena on day 4 of my Rocky Mountains Yellowstone trip. So, supposed to head to Red Lodge. I'm just going to put it into the system now so that it's on Waze. Red Lodge, Montana. New routes. So yeah, it's going to be about 3 hours 41, 3 hours 43, 3 hours 41 to get to Red Lodge, which is where the Beartooth Pass is. From there it's an ascent all the way up to the pass, and it's a pretty high mountain pass. It's about I think it's just shy of 11,000 feet, so the highest point I would be in this trip. Very looking forward to it. Hopefully the weather is clear, and the weather is clear over there as well. So, but you never know, on top of a mountain anything can happen. Now 3 hours 40 to get there, and then afterwards another 2 hours, 2.5 hours to go over the pass and then down to get to Cody. That's the plan for today, so looking forward to it, and we'll keep you posted. I headed out of Helena, Montana early in the morning, all keen and eager to set out for my final destination, which was Cody, and riding over the impressive Beartooth Pass in Wyoming. So as I headed out, I noticed there was a kind of a stench in the air from I guess the forest fires, and the wind kind of blowing it over the mountains down into the Helena Valley, and it was a very distinct, of course, smell. And of course, I mean, the skies were like a kind of an orange hue to them because of the smoke kind of blocking out the sun's rays. It was kind of bad in the earlier part of the day, but as I headed on and moved into the valley and then further into the mountains, then it all cleared up. So Helena as a city is much bigger than one would expect. I was anticipating it to be a small kind of a town, but before you know it, you start seeing Walmart, a Costco, several kind of like top name hotel brands, several gas stations, wide roads. There's a interstate which runs through the city, so pretty impressive. And that's a Walmart over there in the distance, which kind of like to the point I was making. Of course, it's in a big valley and you're surrounded by the Rocky Mountains, so super impressive. But just outside of Helena, the moment you step out, there's an area called the Helena National Forest, and I think it's called the Helena Lewis Clarke or something like that National Park. And it's beautiful. Like, you go through these narrow mountain roads. It's twisty, it's bendy, super cool place. I really liked it. Despite the smog in the air, it was quite the scenic ride. So this area was probably badly hit by forest fires at some point in time. I couldn't help but notice all the slopes were like kind of like had trees which were completely burnt out, probably from either earlier this season or the last season. A bit of a kind of a sad sight to see, but I guess that's just Mother Nature. This road is also known as Highway 12, which goes right through the middle of the Helena National Forest, and it's a nice little detour to take. As I exited the Helena National Forest area, the landscape of course started to change. The spaces around me kind of like became wide open. The mountains had moved away into the distance, and there were these fields of gold all around me, and it was a unique experience. This is when I got a true appreciation of beauty, not just being in the shape of high mountains, but also in the wide open spaces. And the beauty that brings with it is so different and so unique. And I couldn't help but be in awe of this beauty that I was seeing unfold in front of my own eyes. So finally arrived in Red Lodge, which is of course the kind of base camp for the trip up to the Beartooth Pass. And it was a long, boring ride on the interstate, of course, but I'm glad that I finally got here. Went looking for a magnet or some kind of a sticker. I just bought a couple of things because it was exorbitantly expensive. I think one store was asking for like $13 plus tax for a single magnet for the Beartooth Pass, and I just said it's a rip-off, and I walked away from the store. So if you're coming from the east or the northeast and you're headed to Yellowstone, I would highly recommend that you check out the Beartooth Pass. So your starting point, of course, in this case would be that you're heading from east to west. So therefore you go via the Red Lodge route and you kind of climb up the Beartooth Pass, and then you descend into Cody over the Chiefjoseph Scenic Byway. That's how I would recommend you doing it. So this is a little kind of like tip from my side. The mountains around you get closer, and then you get into this kind of like pine forested area, and it's quite a beautiful scenery. Wasn't as busy. There were a few motorcyclists around, of course, kind of like making use of the good weather. It was like this guy. It was the temperature was ideal at about, I would say, 18 degrees or 19 degrees centigrade. So by this point, I had started to climb the Beartooth Highway or Scenic Byway, and I just couldn't help but compare this to the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. And for me, both days were smoggy, and but this place just completely different, and I would say so much better than going to the Sun Road and the Logan Pass over there. I was just in awe of this road. This is probably the most beautiful highway or scenic byway I have ever been on in my life. I can say that very confidently, and I've been on a lot of roads in my life. So this is really special one, and it'll always hold a near and dear place in my heart for sure. I mean, just look at the scenery around you. You just keep ascending higher and higher, and it just keeps getting better as you move along with every single turn. So just stop for a quick little picture time, and yeah, it's a nice spot here, very scenic. Just gonna take some photographs. There you go. So after a brief stopover, I continued my journey up and up and up as I went higher and higher along the Beartooth Scenic Byway. And of course, as you climb higher, you just are wondering, when is this going to stop? Like, when are you going to get to the top? Because it seems like you're almost at the level of the mountains around you, except that the mountain you're climbing is even higher. I mean, just think about it, like 11,900 plus feet is about 3,300 meters, which is the kind of like height of an average mountain in the Rocky Mountains. And it's pretty high, I'm telling you that much. So I was just wondering, when will this stop and when will I get to the top? But trust me, from this point on, there was still a lot to go. And as the road kind of like winds up and takes its turns and twists and turns, you can see the road above at some point, at certain points in the trip, in the journey. And it occurs to you like, oh my god, that's a road up there. That's like, I'm going to be going up there. Like, that's just fascinating. Like, it's just an amazing feat of engineering by whoever built this road. So at this stretch of the highway, I was like, oh my God, I'm almost at the level of that peak in front. And I was like, is it like this is like a kind of a takeoff point or like a runway from here? Like, where is this road going? Like, it's a bit scary when the horizon in front of you is a massive mountain and you're higher than that. But there was another twist, another turn. Nice scenic spot over here, like a viewpoint. Okay, don't worry about it. Oh, this is so high, it's so cool. So I met some really interesting people at that little stop point, and there were a couple of close friends who had traveled from different parts of the country and decided to do this trip together to get to the top of the Beartooth Pass. And I was like very impressed by what they were telling me. So this is the border between Montana, where I was coming from, and Wyoming. So now I'm actually entering the state of Wyoming. And Wyoming, of course, has so much more to offer. The Beartooth Pass is actually in Wyoming. You ascend when you're ascending from Red Lodge in Montana, and when you cross over to get to the Beartooth Pass, you're in Wyoming. And then, of course, Wyoming is the home of Yellowstone National Park, another gem. I mean, just look at this place. Another bend and you see more road up ahead, winding up the hill. I was like, okay, this has to stop. But no, another bend, another road revealed, climbing even higher. This place is actually covered in snow at least 8 months in a year, and those are actually glacial lakes that you can see in the distance. Amazing blue water from the ice melt and spellbinding views in the distance. So this place might seem pretty benign, but trust me, it was really windy and it was a tough ride up the mountain, and I was pushing back hard against the wind. I still consider myself lucky, as you can even get snow in the summer months, and this was September. The altitude is very high, so make sure you check the weather before you leave. But you must visit the Beartooth Pass. Finally arrived at Beartooth Pass. The top, of course, is like you're on top of the world, and it was windy and extremely blustery over here, but I decided to stop by this little signboard which said Beartooth Pass, 10,947 feet, I believe it was. And people were curious. This lady at the back was looking at me. I had a conversation with her later on as well, but it was getting cold and windy, so I decided to take a few pictures, do this little 360 video of Beartooth Pass, and then find my way down the mountain on the other side towards Cody. So I began my descent from the Beartooth Pass heading into Wyoming, and of course it's quite the scene everywhere all around you. You see these, because you're so high, you're at the level of a lot of the mountains in front of you, and this is when you really appreciate and recognize why this is called the Beartooth Pass, because all the peaks are like super jagged and they resemble like bear teeth. That's why the name Beartooth Pass. As you descend the Beartooth Pass, you can see the road winding up from the other side. You can see jagged peaks in the distance, and I was in awe of the engineering feat that this road was, given the altitude and the terrain and how difficult it must have been to build and maintain, and yet it was in stellar condition. So a quick stopover to snap a few pictures in front of this beautiful lake, and from here I'm going to head towards the turnoff for this Chief Joseph Scenic Byway. From there the road will wind its way down before heading up the Dead Indian Pass. let's go to Chief Joseph. Dead Indian. Chief Joseph. Yeah. I don't know where I read Dead Indian, but something said Dead Indian. So lots of bugs. Bugs are back. After the heights of finally arrived at the turning point for the Chief Joseph Scenic Byway. So over here you get off the Beartooth Scenic Byway and onto the Chief Joseph Scenic Byway. The road ahead of you, amazing views of the mountains and clear blue skies. You go through forests as you descend from this point, and then of course eventually you start ascending to get to the top of the Dead Indian Pass. There is interesting history behind the name of the Dead Indian Pass, which is associated with the flight of the Nez Perce Indians during the Nez Perce War in 1877. Pursued by several hundred soldiers, Chief Joseph led 700 Nez Perce men, women and children and 2,000 horses through Yellowstone Park, eastward and into the Absaroka Mountains. When they reached the Dead Indian Pass, they fooled the army of Samuel D. Sturgis and his 600-strong cavalry, who were waiting at lower altitudes to intercept them. Chief Joseph and the Nez Perce traversed the Dead Indian Gulch and evaded the awaiting army. So this is the Dead Indian Pass. Finally arrived here. You will notice how blue the skies are and how clear the air is. But if you look in the distance, you can see the smog-filled air. So it's always clearer at a higher altitude, and that's what I noticed everywhere I went. It's just that you're so high that the smog is at a much lower level and it's settled over there. And when you're in the higher levels, it's like blue skies and clear skies and fresh air. So from this point onward, it's just downhill all the way to Cody, and the landscape again changes drastically. You'll start to see some greenery and some forested areas, and then eventually as you go lower, into the open area, and as the valley opens up, it becomes all arid and more plains. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button as well as the notify button so you stay informed when future episodes drop. Thanks for watching.